Hello, welcome to this video where we're going to put a spotlight on Pip and constellations so that Pip can talk about constellations in all of her experience, which is vast, and of course in particular in the context of the Conscious Parenting Programme, so that you can get a sense of why we've decided to collaborate on this for this programme, why constellations are such an amazing aspect to bring into this conversation and into this exploration of being parents and with our children and with our partners, and as we said in the other video, all the ripples of people that are in that world with us in that experience. So today, welcome to Pip. It's like I'm your interviewer here. We're going to we're going to dive into constellations so that you can tell us more about them, so that everyone listening and watching can understand why constellations, how will they help me in this program, what difference will they make. So do you want to just start off with exactly that? So what would a constellation help with from the perspective of a parent with parental challenges? What is the benefit of a constellation? How does it help?
Yeah, sure. I think the first thing I want to say is that when you and I were talking about setting up the program about conscious parenting, it just felt absolutely right to bring together conversation and constellations, because constellations is all about family systems. That's what it was originally designed to attend to. So sometimes it's called systemic constellations, sometimes it's called family constellations. And it attends to the possibility that something that is showing up in current reality, whether that's in an individual or within the whole family system, is possibly a consequence of something that was needed in a previous generation. So as the constellator, so as the person who is facilitating a constellation, I'm always looking for what problem was this a solution to at some point and has now lost its need, or its need has been diminished within the family, but is still being perpetuated. And being very caring and honoring of the fact that that loyalty to that way of being is embedded because of the potentially the severity of the circumstances under which it was created. So constellations illuminates possibility for a family or for an individual in that family when people feel that they are stuck in a pattern and they really get the feeling that they are confused by the reason that it keeps coming back. Often people come to constellations when they've tried lots of different routes to resolve something, and those solutions might help for just a short amount of time, but ultimately the pattern reoccurs. And as a constellator, my curiosity then is piqued, because my training has taught me that if something keeps coming back, it's because it isn't ours, and that we've become incredibly loyal to something that one of our generations, maybe we'll find out why, and maybe we never will know why, but at some point something happened and that family agreed that the way to survive was to do something and to behave in a certain way, and that was then an imperative that was passed down, and people are then continuing that in their family systems today. So it might be, for example, people who feel like they can't cope, or they're not good enough, or they aren't worthy of love or joy or success or even peace or space. And they can't rationally understand why, because if they look at everything that they have in their family, lovely house, plenty of space, lovely garden, we're all healthy, we don't want for anything, but there's a feeling of stuckness, or there's a feeling of combat or anything. Last weekend I was constellating with somebody, and it was just a feeling across the family that we just don't speak about anything. We just avoid conflict and discussion. And it was frustrating for that person, because that's not what he wanted, but it was what was the rules. And often the people who are looking to come to constellations, I sometimes call them the paradigm shifters. They're the people who feel like something shouldn't be perpetuated anymore for the benefit of this family. And so we look at, why would that family feel like that? Does that come from something in the past? And therefore, can we leave it in the past and say, oh, okay, right, let's put that down and move forward. And we have processes to deal with that.
I love it. I love it, Pip. You got some great phrases in there. The illuminating was beautiful. And that paradigm shifters, yeah, that's so perfect. I hear that with different words in different places, but yeah, that sense of you are the one, or we are the ones who are here to change that trajectory moving forward. We can't change what's happened in the past, but we're the ones who are now looking at it going, no, there's something wrong with this picture. Like, I reckon it should be different than this. So yeah.
And that's who we will get on this program. It's always the case. It's not something we seek out. It's just what happens. The people who hear this and see what we're doing and think, oh, yes, finally, that's where I want to be. They are just naturally paradigm shifters, because they get this calling for curiosity and knowing that this isn't really how it's supposed to be. And I think maybe I'm the person who's supposed to have a go at seeing what else there is.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, and I love that sense as well, that they've already tried a whole bunch of stuff. I see that a lot with people who come to me too. I've tried all sorts of different things, and then eventually they've come to something which is more, as constellations are, energetic, more spiritual, more more about what's going on beneath this surface appearance of reality. So yeah, it's very cool. So Pip, what do you see in terms of, because I know you've done loads of constellating and loads with parents and families. What kind of thing do you see that people leave with? Like, what impact do you see it has? What difference does it make?
I sometimes wish that I could take photos of people's faces when we start the session, and then afterwards, because I can see a lightness that forms, and it just seems like a representation of this idea that there's possibility now. So in constellating, we are really cautious or we really want to be clear that there's nothing that we do that's healing. We describe the process as radical acceptance and integration. So we're holding space for people to integrate and to see, and then they will naturally have more of a natural flow. And whether that's energy, often it feels like love, possibility, clarity. This is what flows into the space that they've created by unpacking some stuff and putting it down and giving it back to who it belongs to. So they can, sometimes I try to describe it like people are moving forward with a backpack that's got the right things in it, rather than everybody's old stuff that they don't need that person to carry anymore. I've got just a few examples that are recent, that really kind of stayed with me. There was a woman who had come to the constellation session, and her desire that she wanted to work on at the session was that she wanted her partner to be more present and to step up and to help her more. She felt that she was the person who's doing all the parenting. They'd got one child together who had mild autism, and she just was burnt out, and she just said, why am I taking all of this on? I'm here to investigate what's happening in my family system, because why am I burning out? Why can't I share this with my partner? Taking a lot of responsibility for her interaction with what was happening. When we created the family system and we used representatives to step into the roles, and we had her and her partner and their child there, the constellation showed us, and this is one thing about constellations, because we are doing it in what we call the field, so we're relying on the collective consciousness of humanity to be much more powerful than what we could know as individuals. What the constellation showed was that the father had created this line between him and his child because of a very embodied fear that there was things that he'd experienced in his upbringing that he did not want to bring to his child. So we laid out a ribbon very carefully and very lovingly to show the representative that if father was here and child was here, yes, it might have increased some kind of safety of, I don't want to give you the bad stuff, but it meant that neither could he give all of the amazing good stuff. And so in a little ritual, he was able to gather up that stuff and to turn around to his ancestors and say, you have to have this back. It happened in the past and it's not happening now. And I would like you to give me your blessing so I can turn around and engage fully with my child. And it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. Obviously lots of tears and lots of breakthrough. And initially the mum, I think, felt a little bit annoyed that I thought this was going to be about me and actually about him. The whole problem is that I want some space for me, and I've come here to constellate, and now it's all about him. But as we brought that in to the constellation too, everything just softened. So it's very much about finding anything that's missing, anything that's being held back or pushed away or ignored, and saying, no, come on. Like, if there's a bit of trauma, let's bring that in. If there's a bit of annoyance, let's bring that in. Like, let's have the whole thing here. And then there's this softening and releasing, and then that's when you get the flow. And we really do consider constellations to just be restoring the flow of love, that it's there, it's absolutely there. But if the pipes have got a bit blocked up, it might feel like a little trickle that people can't really connect to. So we try and just clear the pipes out a bit, and then we just trust, and people leave the workshops, and it's then up to them to move forward with whatever that unlocks. And
it's amazing. What a great example. It's so powerful. Like you say, the fact that you're dropping into that space of really the intelligence before our human mind, that field. And it is, so I don't constellate with people now, but I trained in constellations, and obviously I've attended some of yours, and it's just, every time it's incredible what gets revealed so powerfully. And I love that what you said at the end there about the lady being honest about how she felt, because that's the thing, isn't it? It's all about being honest and looking at it exactly as it is, saying exactly what's being felt or thought, rather than what we think it should be, because that's that's what helps with that pipe clearing, isn't it? It's like we're no longer trying to pretend, oh, I shouldn't feel like this, or my family should be like that. We get so honest, and that's the space of transformation, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it really is. And what I love about constellations is that you don't really get a choice about what happens. You trust, and you set up, and you apply the theories and the principles, and you as a constellator, you hold what you know is a useful space, and then you just have to be completely curious and open, and also encourage the families and the representatives to do that too, because if you feel very stuck on, I know what it is. I had this last weekend, actually, when I was working with somebody. A lovely guy came and said, I kind of know what this is. There's a thing in the male line where we all do this thing, and I can see I'm doing it too, and I have a son now, and I guess that he might end up copying that, and I don't want it. And so we like, yeah, that's fine, let's work that out. And we set it up, and it was just incredible, the noise that was coming from his mother's line.
Wow.
And something completely new illuminated itself to him. And that was just a beautiful example of his intellect had told him,
yeah,
I know what this is because I've done the research, and I know what happened to my granddad and blah, blah. And that day, it was his mom that said, in the constellation, said, no, it's this thing that I'm carrying, and because I carried it, I wasn't present for you, and that impacted on how you were brought into the world. And that was such a moment for him to switch that, his mind, from knowing to then not knowing, and then allowing. So he did not come expecting that, but that's what it showed. So we followed that, and he got something wonderful out of it. And that's how it usually goes. we have our ideas, and then the field blows those to pieces and gives us something much more spectacular, and that's a wonderful gift.
It is, it's fabulous. Yeah, it's reminding me of my transmissions, where sometimes I have this idea of, or the tune in, into a past life. I think I know what's going to come, and it's like, oh, that's not what I was expecting, which I love, because it shows that it's not my mind making it up, because my mind had its idea.
One of the things that we talk about in Constellations is helping everybody to come back to their right size, and that goes for the constellator too. So I know that when I turn up and I think, and the client, when we think we know, we're a little bit too big, and that never really works out, because we're not able to be in flow when we're too big. And then the constellation very caringly and lovingly just deflates you with its power and its the insight, and you go, oh, okay, I get it, okay. And I just love that as a process. It just keeps reminding you that we don't know everything, and we need to just let go, surrender, and be with what is.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I'd love to share a personal example of mine, Pip, from when I joined a constellation with you, and it was an online one, so it was the same as we'll be doing within the program, which, as you discovered through COVID, it was like, wow, amazing, online constellations totally work. So yeah, I guess I'd like to bring this forward because of the fact it's online, the same as we'll be doing with the conscious parenting group. Also to highlight how with constellations, like you're talking about those people who came with their challenge and they were the center of that constellation, but it's not just that person who gets the benefit. So within the program, we're going to have 5 or 6 topics. So each month there's going to be one constellation. So one person is going to be the center, which means not everybody in the group is going to get that central role. Now, some people might actually love that and not want to be the center anyway, so that's cool. But it's just really to highlight how even when you're not the center, there is often a resonance of that person's situation with the others who are in the constellation, with those who are representatives, but even with those who are just inverted commas observers. And that's what I'd experienced with the one that you did for us within Wild Fig, where there was a lady who was sharing about her experience with her sibling, and there were 4 people, I think, who'd been chosen within the group to be representatives, and the rest of us were observing. But what she saw and what came through for her around the relationship with her sibling, and how her mum particularly, had essentially stood in the way of her and her sibling having a close relationship, and kind of maintained that experience of them not being able to fully connect. And I had such a surprising, you know, back to that thing of I didn't expect it, such a surprising recognition of my role with my own kids. And it was just phenomenal. I never expected it to come from that session. You know, yeah, I didn't know what was going to come up for the central person, of course. When it did, and when I saw that mirror reflection for me in my life, oh gosh, it was huge. And then, without doing anything, I didn't communicate that to anybody in my family. I think I remember telling you and the others who'd been in that group.
Yeah.
But I then saw my kids' relationship with each other changing, because that recognition in me had shifted something fundamental in me and my energetic expression, which allowed the space for them to be in a different relationship with each other. Just incredible. And that's simply from watching it, you know. So I really want to highlight how, well, the magnificence of constellations, like they are amazing, but also the fact that irrespective of what role you're playing within the group, there is that ripple effect, there is that impact. Even if it's supposedly not your story and your example, there are mirrors all over the place saying, look at this, see this, recognize this in yourself.
Yeah, there is. And sometimes we there's a lovely term that is used a lot in constellations, which is borrowed benefits. And I like the alliteration of it, but I also need to point out to groups when I hold them that you never have to give them back. You're not actually borrowing the benefit, you're getting the benefit. But it's that we use that term to just to help a group realize that you're here for the right reasons, and certainly do not need to be the client to be gifted some insight. The other thing you reminded me to mention, Helen, was that one of the kind of care instructions that I give when we're coming to the end of a constellation, especially to the client, but to everybody in the group, is that after a constellation, there's absolutely nothing to do. And it's a little bit different to the coaching maybe that sometimes we do in more kind of operational circumstances, where there is things for people to write down and have a go at. And that's as you described just now in your lovely example, where you did nothing and then saw the impact across the field. Impacts how people relate to each other. I get so many amazing, like literally kind of goosebump moments when people say, the work that we did yesterday on my relationship to my mum, I did nothing, as you described, and I got a WhatsApp from my mum this morning saying, look at these baby photos that I found under the sofa last night, whilst just very crazy things that you like. It wasn't just a call or a wet message, it was something quite odd. And I often take that as the universe or the field kind of going, look, it's like a reassurance sometimes that these little magic things happen. And sometimes I hear about them, sometimes I don't. But yeah, we just basically say we don't have to do anything, nobody needs to do anything, but just be curious and observant and go, wow, okay, maybe that's the magic.
There is a delight. Whatever comes on the other side of clearing that pipe is delightful. Beautiful. Lovely, Pip. This has been so wonderful. I hope everyone who's watching has enjoyed and has, I mean, gosh, I feel like I've gained loads from listening and hearing all the amazing work you're doing with Constellations. So really can't wait for us to bring this to the group who come together for this program. As always with these things, so we'll have contact details in the descriptions. Reach out to us in any way, in any place that makes sense to you. If you want to have a conversation with Pip more about Constellations, then do that. If you've got any questions, any concerns, anything that that isn't making sense from what we've talked about, anything you want to know more about, I know Pip will be happy to answer questions in relation to that aspect of the programme. Both of us happy to answer questions in relation to the programme overall. So yeah, get in touch and we look forward to hearing from you.